Giants fans, welcome back to Giants Latest and happy Friday. The Giants take on the Eagles on Sunday. Today we are talking some final details. So we're going to go through the injury updates, players to watch both on offense and defense, and then my final prediction for the game. So let's go ahead and start with the injuries. I'm actually going to start with Philly first while I have this pulled up because, I don't know, maybe the Giants will get a little lucky with this because AJ Brown and Cam Jurgens both did not practice on Wednesday and Thursday. Neither did Adoree Jackson and Azeez Ojulari, former Giants. We all know them, but they're not really starters. Adoree Jackson had to play a little bit last week, and had to play against the Giants, and that obviously didn't go so well the first time around. So he's not really going to be the starting corner out there. He's dealing with a concussion. But I want to talk about AJ Brown because he's dealing with a hamstring injury. And I actually recorded a podcast this week with an Eagles reporter. And she was telling me that over the last couple weeks, while AJ Brown has been nursing this hamstring injury, his injury designation has said hamstring/rest. So some of the reasons why he did not practice during the week is because they were just resting him. And the plan was always that he was going to play on Sundays, but he just needed those rest days and it wasn't a big deal. This time it only says hamstring. So it leads me to believe that these are not planned rest days. He's out because he's not able to practice because of the hamstring. So with that being said, the Giants could get lucky about that. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Players who were limited: Grant Calcaterra, Landon Dickerson, Moro Ojomo, and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. The one guy I want to call out here is Landon Dickerson, who I don't believe played the first time around with the Giants. But either way, this Eagles offensive line is not the same offensive line that Eagles fans and Giants fans who have been watching them all the time are used to. It's not the same. We saw it against the Giants, and I think we're going to see it again this weekend. So that could obviously be beneficial to the Giants. And the fact that their starting center, Cam Jurgens, is not practicing is also not helping them. So it could be an option for the Giants to exploit that. The last thing I want to say is Dallas Goedert was a full participant, and so was Brandon Graham. Now, Brandon Graham just came back from being retired, because of course he did, just in time to play the Giants. But the Eagles reporter that I spoke to said they hadn't decided whether or not Graham was going to officially play on Sunday just yet. So we should find out later this afternoon when the final injury designations come out. But honestly, the Giants are never a lucky football team, so of course Brandon Graham is going to play. If I had to bet on it, I would. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the Giants. They had 5 players who did not participate in practice: Adebo, Burns, Davidson, Golston, and Holland. Now, Brian Burns spoke to the media on Wednesday after practice because he also did not practice Wednesday, and he said, "I'm playing on Sunday." Now, I believe him because if there's anyone who is going to play Sunday, even though they're dealing with an injury, it's Brian Burns. He did it every single week last year, and he's going to do it again this week. So I hope he's feeling good enough to the sense that this is not going to hinder his game on Sunday because we're going to need him. But having him on Sunday obviously is very important. So I hope that he's able to play. It's not looking good for Adebo and Holland. DJ Davidson and Chauncey Golston, I'm not so sure about yet. Chauncey Golston continues to go back and forth between the did not practice and limited practice, so I'm not going to hold my breath on him. I would say it's not trending in the right direction for him. And probably the same with DJ Davidson. Usually guys who do not practice on Thursday do not play. I think Brian Burns will be the only exception to that list. There's really only one change from Wednesday to Thursday, and it's John Michael Schmitz, who has been cleared from the concussion protocol, so he is going to play on Sunday. Now, I know some people are like, I don't want him out there, but the reality is John Michael Schmitz has been playing really well the last few weeks before he went ahead and got that concussion. He's playing some of the best football that he's played since he's been a Giant. So he's healthy. He's going to get the start. And if he gets injured or he looks horrible, then at least we know we can rely on Austin Schlottman, who played last week against the Broncos and did a hell of a job. So it's nice to have a functioning offensive line. So I think we're good either way there from the center perspective. At least I hope so. So with that being said, there are a couple other people who are limited: Bellinger, Bozeman, Illuminor, Foles, and Slayton is still limited. But I think Slayton's going to play on Sunday, so I don't think there's anything to worry about there. So let's go ahead and move through the offensive players to watch. Cam Skattebo, game one against the Eagles was incredible. He had 3 touchdowns, rushed for 98 yards, and then had another handful of of yards through the air. So I expect them to focus on the run game this week. That is absolutely going to help them beat Philly. And along the same lines of Cam Scatterbo having a big game, Tyrone Tracy is also going to have to do that. Now, he is looking like himself. We saw that against the Broncos. That 31-yard touchdown run was fantastic. And I expect now that Tracy seems to be fully 100% out there, I think maybe we will see a bit of a running back by committee situation between the two of them. So looking forward to that. You have to run the ball to beat Philly, especially when you have practice squad wide receivers on your football team. So speaking of other offensive players to watch, this is going to be a big game for Wan'Dale Robinson. He is one of the only reliable wide receivers for Jackson Dart at this point. Last week against the Broncos, we barely saw Lil Jordan Humphrey, Beau Collins, and Jalen Hyatt. And when any of them got targets, they didn't do anything. So I'm not expecting big games out of any of those guys. And look, the reality is Darius Slayton's probably going to be back, so he's going to get the bulk of those outside snaps anyway. But I think Wan'Dale Robinson could be the key to this game. Jackson Dart has utilized him quite well. I actually think the play calling with Wan'Dale has been better, dare I say. So we need a big game out of him. We need, another 80-yard game, maybe a touchdown, and for him to really contribute to this offense for us to put up points. So I expect him to be involved and to make some plays. And lastly, Jackson Dart has done a hell of a job. Very impressed with what he did week 1 against the Eagles, and I expect him to continue that this week. Now, the Eagles are the only team so far who have played Jackson Dart twice, so they have that advantage going for them. Vic Fangio is no joke. He's not Vance Joseph, but again, second time around, he's going to throw some things at Dart that he has not seen yet. Plus, they are going to have Quinion Mitchell back and Jalen Carter, which they did not have the first time around against the Giants. So this offense, Jackson Dart included, needs to make smart decisions with the ball. This is a game that I think is going to be closer than the first time around, and you cannot turn the ball over if you want to win. So I want to see Jackson Dart, again, make smart decisions. I understand he's a rookie. Not everything's going to be perfect. Please don't turn the ball over. That's the number one thing I do not want to see him do on Sunday. Next up, let's talk about the defensive players to watch. I need Shane Bowen to blitz. I really need him to blitz. And with that being said, I want to talk about Abdul Carter because I know his stats are not jumping off the page, but if you focus on Abdul Carter during games and then you go back and watch the film on him, he's having an amazing season. He is a huge contributor to the amount of pressures, sacks, and quarterback hits that this defensive line has accrued over the last 7 weeks. And I know it doesn't show up on the stats and it's not sexy because he doesn't have 7 sacks or 9 sacks like Brian Burns does. But part of the reason why Burns has those sacks is because Abdul Carter is wrecking havoc on the field. So keep your eyes on 51 this week. Jalen Hurts is known to make mistakes when he is pressured. Aside from the fact that this offensive line is not what it used to be, I think this is an opportunity for Abdul Carter to really take advantage. Now, again, we need Brian Burns on this field and we need him being healthy and we need a big game out of Thibodeau. But I think that Abdul Carter, and I know some of you are going to be like, you say this every week, but Abdul Carter deserves it. He has 27 pressures for the season so far. That is double digit more than any other defensive rookie in the NFL. Do you understand that? So again, just because he doesn't have sacks doesn't mean he sucks. Okay? Abdul Carter is our guy. He's going to lead us to the promised land when Shane Bowen or the new defensive coordinator knows how the hell to run a defense. So it might not be this week, but I think Abdul Carter's still going to have a good game. Next up, my boy Cordell Flott. The Giants need to re-sign him ASAP. He's been unbelievable. Obviously had the game-sealing interception the first time around against the Eagles. He is top 5 in cornerbacks in the NFL for PBUs. He's having a fantastic season. This week, I think, could be a little challenging for him. Whether or not A.J. Brown plays, I know that this Giants organization, I just know that they are going to be trotting out Tay Banks alongside Cordell Flott. And I'm going to be pulling my hair out on Sunday. But it's it's going to mean that more of the work is going to be on Cordell Flott because he's not going to have a Debo to help him out this week, which is concerning. I think Cordell Flott is capable of handling it. I think he's going to have a great week. Very worried about the other cornerback position. And then the last player to watch on defense is Dane Belton with Holland being out. Belton is good on special teams. He is a ball hawk. He's known to be around the ball. He is the one who punched the ball out last time around where Drew Phillips recovered the fumble. Need him to do it again. Force another turnover this week. The Giants have to win the turnover battle. Dane Belton made some key stops, especially a big one on third down last week against the Broncos. He's getting more playing time, of course, with Holland being out. And look, he's had some bad plays as well. I understand that. But I think overall, he's done a good job. Now he needs to build upon that and do it again this week. Perfect week for an interception, Belton. Please, we need you. So with that being said, you know what? I decided that I'm picking the Giants this week, and I could regret this. I'm not believing in the jinx stuff anymore. I am superstitious, and I always joke around that like the reason why the Giants didn't get any sacks and they lost to the Saints is because I bet that Carter, Burns, and Thibodeau were all going to have a sack. Like, I'm joking. Obviously, that's not why they lost and why they didn't have any sacks. It was a cluster of a game. But you know what? It's a division rival. The Giants have beat good teams. They were this close to beating the Broncos, and I think that they're capable of being a bounce back team. We saw it. They have had two colossal meltdowns so far this season. They go out there and they beat the Chargers in an unbelievable display of complimentary football. The next week, complete meltdown. 5 turnovers in a row in 5 drives. Okay, cluster. They brush it off. They go into Denver, and for 3.5 quarters, they play fantastic football, and then colossal fall off. I think that they can bounce back against Philly. I do. This offensive line has been playing well. The offense as a whole has been playing well. And I know that Philly has good players back. I do. I understand that. I don't think this game is going to be easy. I think that if the Giants win, it could be by 1 point. Like, I think it's going to be a close game. But I think ultimately this team has showed me enough that the offense is capable of moving the ball against good defenses. They're capable of doing it against the Chargers and the Broncos, which have better defenses than the Eagles have shown so far. I think they're getting good momentum, and they're going to be able to do that. I think that we're going to see a little bit of a bounce back game from Shane Bowen and this defense. And what I mean by that is, again, we saw it against the Eagles the first time around, right? They have this awful game against the Saints. The players have a sit-down meeting with Shane Bowen on a short week and say, we have to be more aggressive. Shane Bowen listens, and it works. Now, don't ask me why he didn't do that against the Broncos. I don't know. Don't have any good explanation for it. He certainly doesn't have a good explanation for it because all he did was say, that's on me with that, first down, rush 3, drop 8 call. He said the same thing that he said after the Cowboys game. So something's not getting through the thick skull in there. But I do think that after that game, after having to go to the media and say it was my fault, after hearing one of his players scream, walking into the locker room, Burns was sobbing at his locker after that. Dexter Lawrence saying to the media, it wasn't my choice to not be out there on that first down play call on the last drive. I hope that it's giving Bowen an opportunity to say, I have a really talented defensive line and I better use them. And it worked the first time against Philly. So again, I refuse to believe that someone is that dumb that they're going to look at what they did the first time around in Philly and say, we're going to do something completely different. Like that. Please don't do that, Shane Bowen. I'm begging you, please. So anyway, I think they're going to do enough. I think when push comes to shove, I think we're going to finally see the defense make a stop. There's no altitude this week. There's no Sean Payton. There's none of that. So I'm done with the excuses. This is a good football team. I think the coaching is holding them back, and I think the players are going to put it in their own hands and say, we have to make a stop, and we're going to do it. So I'm taking my Giants. Please don't let me down. I really want you guys to win. Nothing would make me happier than to sweep the Eagles for the first time since 2007. Let's go out there and do it. Go Giants. Beat some Eagles ass. Make sure you subscribe because Monday will be a recap and hopefully we're talking about a win.